Sarah, and I am a presidential ambassador and also a health and exercise science major here at CSU.
And hello, everybody. My name is Mary. I am also a presidential ambassador and I'm studying political science. We are here today with Rich Donahue. Richard is a senior executive consultant, and he's here to talk to us today about preparing for life after CSU by creating differentiation. Thank you for being here today, Richard.
It's great to be here. Welcome, everyone.
Yes, and the Career Connection series today will continue a series of live interviews that we'll be producing with our alumni and friends in the university in all different fields. We hope all the students and alumni are able to use these informational interviews videos as learning tools and deciding whether your career path is what you want, how to differentiate yourself like today, and learning about a new industry possibly. If you're interested in connecting for further mentorship, we would love to connect you with different avenues and furthermore this conversation as well.
And Richard, thank you so much for joining us. Will you share with our alumni and students a bit about your academic degree and then talk about your pathway to where you are now?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Do you have a couple hours? Because I have a long career, probably over 40 years since my working career, but I'll try to be brief. So I was born and raised in Hoboken, New Jersey, a small blue-collar town across the Hudson River from New York City. So that's where I grew up, and great experience growing up. I went to Seton Hall University, also a local school in New Jersey, known for their basketball. So people may recognize Seton Hall from basketball. And then I got my MBA from Fairleigh Dickinson University. My undergraduate degree is in business management and accounting, and my graduate degree is in finance. As we were talking before, I have two CSU students. One is an alumni. My son graduated in May of 2020 this year, and my daughter is a senior at CSU. My son Connor graduated with a finance degree in 2020. Delaney is studying biological sciences, and I also have an older daughter who was the defector. She went to Tulane. She graduated from Tulane and then went on to Columbia Dental School, and she's a practicing dentist today. My career has spanned, like I said, decades, and I hate to say that, but I started out my career actually when I was a junior in college. A friend of mine offered me an opportunity to be a part-time worker at a company. And then after I graduated from Seton Hall with my undergraduate degree, they offered me a full-time job. And I started there in the accounting department and worked for that company for about 5 years. And then from there, I actually became a controller of one of the first cellular mobile phone manufacturers. And this is way back in the early 80s. So they were one of two early manufacturers of cell phone. And I remember it was really car phones at the beginning. And then my first mobile phone was a briefcase phone, weighed about 40 pounds. That changed into a duffel bag phone, and then eventually to the block that we called it. And then nowadays it's a cell phone that we all use, right? So pretty amazing where it came started from and where it is today. But it was an interesting role working for that company. I started there in accounting and then eventually moved into treasury. And treasury was becoming a profession that was of prominence, and I decided to kind of take a leap out of accounting into treasury. And that actually afforded me an opportunity to move from New Jersey to California and join a Fortune 100 technology distribution company as their assistant treasurer for the North American region. After a few years in treasury, I actually went back into accounting and eventually became the controller for their North American region, which is about a $10 billion region, and stayed in accounting and worked in the controllership area for a number of years there. And then my boss, who was the CFO, moved to become the president, and then kind of said, "Hey, Rich, I need somebody to run the treasury, the strategy group." So I made another leap out of accounting into strategy. And I found that to be a very rewarding, exciting, and challenging area as well. So I worked there in the strategy group for a number of years, and that actually afforded me an opportunity to move into the current role that I'm in today, which is an executive consultant. So um, I worked with companies in strategic growth, strategic planning, cost optimization efforts, and things like that. And I deal with a number of clients and work for them as a consultant, which is a little bit different than, my base career. And I found that to be, again, exciting. As you can tell throughout my career, I made a couple of jumps from accounting to treasury, back to accounting, and now in strategy. And that has afforded me to move into this role, which again, I classify it as I help great companies become greater. And that's really exciting and kind of the niche that I really like to be in right now.
That's so cool. So when you graduated college, did you have a feeling you would kind of go towards treasury and eventually consulting as you are now? Or what did you see yourself when you were graduating?
Absolutely not. So, like I said, usually accountants stay within accounting, and I jumped around as I described my career from accounting into treasury back into strategy. So um, I thought my career was going to be strictly in accounting, and that was fine because that's what I like to do. But throughout, and it's really was dependent on the companies that I worked for and the opportunities that were afforded me, that I was able to move around, have broader experience. Throughout my career, I had the opportunities to travel throughout the world. I built an operational center in Manila in the Philippines. So I was able to travel there quite a bit. I've traveled extensively through Europe and Asia. So, essentially, it wasn't the path that I originally chose, um, but it still stayed within the business arena. And I knew that is where I wanted to be. And so it may not have been exactly the path that I chose, but I was able to adjust and change and go for an opportunity. But one thing that I will tell you is that, and what people should recognize, and I tell my kids the same way, follow your passion, you know, look to, and it may not be exactly what you think it will be, but it's got to be something that is rewarding, challenging, fulfilling, and try to look for opportunities that follow, that is where you want to be from a passion perspective. That means that there are days that maybe I don't want to get up and go to work, but most days I'm excited because I love what I do.
I love
That's
that.
amazing. And is there anything that you would have done differently knowing what you know now?
Well, I think I go back and evaluate my career, and I honestly, if you looked at my background, because of some of the jumps that I did back and forth across different, business related professions, people might look at me and say, "What is this person?" Right? What is really, if I wasn't the accounting following the career path of being in accounting, going into controllership, potentially being a CFO. That's normal, the accounting type path, right? Maybe along the way working for a CPA firm and getting your CPA designation, right? So I don't think I would do anything differently, but I think in this environment, companies tend to be looking not for the broader experience, but more specific, right? So that might be something that you need to evaluate. Do you want to take a traditional career path, or do you want to be broad and hope, it did work out for me, but sometimes it doesn't work out for everybody.
And it looks like we have a question based off your last answer. How did you go about discovering your passion? Like, were there any activities that really helped you that you would recommend?
Um, I would say it's a combination of things, right? I think that, my father was in business, and although he wanted me to be a lawyer, I told him that, sorry, Dad, you're an accountant. I think I'll follow your path. So I think I was pushed into the business arena because of his profession, um, and and I think that was an influence on me. Um, I also think that I enjoyed that business environment, the constant change. I do think that accounting and understanding finance is kind of a lifeblood of an organization. People may differ in that, but you need to know your accounting and your finance to be successful in any company. So even if people have different majors like marketing and such, I would recommend that you take accounting classes if you're not required to, and understand how the finance part of it is, accounting and finance. So take finance classes as well. And then strategy was really something that was a different avenue for me. It was really about I took a executive class about strategy, and the instructor said to me, can you define what strategy is? And everybody put their answers together, but he said it's plain and simple. It's about how do you predict the future? And you think about that, that's what strategy is all about, but it's also challenging, right? So, um, we did an exercise on strategy in that class, and it was about Starbucks. And when we did the class, Starbucks was basically just putting coffee. They were just producing coffee, and we went to Starbucks for coffee. And in that class, we said, well, if you have people coming through, why not introduce different types of coffee? Why don't you do food? Why don't you do, breakfast food, anything to complement the coffee, because you're bringing people in. So I don't know if I can go back to Starbucks and claim that our team gave them strategic direction. I'm sure they figured it out themselves, but it was an interesting concept about what strategy can do about predicting the future and understanding, what companies can do. When I worked from technology distribution, we went through tremendous growth and then the bubble burst, right? So we had to find different ways of producing profitability, and we had a huge infrastructure that was really focused on technology products. But we realized that this distribution center could push anything through. So, if you ordered something on Walmart.com, it came through one of our distribution centers, and we were strictly technology. So that's exciting. Those are the things that influence where I wanted to go. And I wouldn't say I sat down and wrote it down on a piece of paper. It just happened. And that's okay too, right?
And I think we had a follow-up with that question as well. Have soft skills helped you in your career?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think I think you have to have a great foundation, right? And a great foundation has to come with a work ethic, and a tremendous work ethic, right? Um, and then you have to have great communication skills, right? Um, and also, in finance, and you have to have other skills like Excel and all those different things that you bring. But soft skills, work ethic, um, team values of teamwork, accountability, integrity in the workplace, trust and respect for your fellow employees and leaders are critical success factors. And you really have to work hard. I can't tell you, as companies change and go through headcount reductions, you know, people will come to me and say, Rich, what's your advice about, me not losing my job? And I would say to them, be a top performer, work hard. Companies are not going to, it's not always the case, but chances are if you're a top performer, you're not going to, that'll enhance your job security. So those are things that you need to incorporate. So soft skills, definitely communication, work ethic, values are important. Because I think if you have somebody that you hire who have good core fundamental values, you can teach them other things, right? They can learn other things. That desire to learning is critical as well.
Nice. And I feel like that leads into your passion and talking about differentiation. How do you feel like you tough word, differentiated yourself during your job in your careers?
So, so that I think hopefully two things that you get from this interview is, for new alumni or graduating students, the things that you need to look at are two things: networking and differentiation. Okay, and I'll focus more on the differentiation, but you need to network. Okay, um, and you may say, how do I do that? I don't have a professional network. You have a personal network that you can leverage, and you need to enhance, and you never know where your next job is going to be. It could be from the woman in front of you at a Starbucks line that owns a company, and you struck up a conversation with her, and there might be opportunities at that company. It might be coming from your uncle, or who knows somebody who owns a company. So don't think that you don't have a network. You actually have a probably very robust personal network. You just have to learn how to utilize your network. And I will tell you, throughout my career, um, a friend of mine found my first job, or told me about my first job. Um, my sister-in-law told me about an opportunity where I moved from New Jersey to California because she was approached with an opportunity. Um, my old boss found me a job because he knew that I was a top performer and he wanted me to bring me into another company. So I think you should use all the traditional job search opportunities that are out there, but leverage your network as much as you can, and talk to people, go to events. It's a hard job, it really is, but that's really how you're going to find new opportunities, either your next opportunity or as you graduate. Leverage your network, and it's a really powerful tool that will give you your next job. um, Creating differentiation. And by the way, one thing I should throw in there: use the tools that is at the Career Center. Okay, um, I telling you that the Career Center offers you a lot of great tools. I don't know if people utilize it, but things, some of the basic things like resume writing and interviewing techniques, and now there's this whole thing about Zoom interviews that we have we have to make sure that we're learning that, because it's not a face. I think Zoom might be even easier than a face-to-face interview, but utilize the Career Center as much as possible, whether you're an alumni or a graduating upperclassman. Leverage them. But what I really wanted to talk to you about is creating differentiation. Okay, there's 4 million um, college graduates in 2020. Okay, that means there's 4 million graduates that are entering the workforce in a very challenging environment with the pandemic. Um, so what's important here is try to create some differentiation. Okay. When I went from school, and I can't tell you that I had a clearly defined plan, my friend said, "Hey, there's a part-time job in accounting. You want to join? I'll give you a recommendation." And I did that. Okay. Um, but I know with my children, um, my son, when he played football for 2 years at CSU, and then in between his freshman and sophomore, he was doing some on-campus project management work. Um, in between his subsequent years, he did internships at a company, and at the same company. So one summer he did an internship. Next year he came back and did another one. Okay, gave him more experience in the financial area. Okay, they got involved in sports, obviously, and other leadership and campus activities. So get involved. Um, get some experience, and that may not, and I know that's challenging, right? I know it's challenging from an internship perspective, but even a part-time job shows you that soft skill that somebody brought up about that work ethic. My daughter is in biology. She started out wanting to be a vet, so she took veterinary sciences and decided after her freshman year to change, and she did. But between her freshman and sophomore year, what did she do? She went to a veterinary school, a veterinarian place, and she did operational and admin, meaning that she cleaned up dog poop and cat poop, and she fed dogs, and she did things. But what it gave her is some insight into what it is to be a vet, right? So now she changed, so maybe she was a little tired of doing those administrative and operational duties, but she decided that she wanted to be a PA. So as I mentioned, my oldest daughter did a residency in a hospital in New York City. My daughter went out and worked with her on a volunteer basis for a couple of weeks, just to get a view of what the inside of a hospital is, just to verify that's something that she wants to do. She worked as an intern in a rehabilitation center, so she did some volunteer work there too. So all those things between my son and my daughter created differentiation, right? So it's not like the first and foremost, get good grades, get great grades, okay? That's number one step. Get some practical experience, because that creates some differentiation. Get involved in activities. It's no different than people, when you went out of high school, all those different things that they said from qualities perspective that will get you into great colleges like CSU. You need to do that when you enter your workforce, to create that differentiation. And it all comes in different shapes and sizes. But as you go through, and those 4 million graduating seniors, you want to be put to the top of the list. Because if those 4 million graduating students, right, have good grades, then everybody's equal. If you have good grades and you have some of these differentiators that I pointed out, then maybe someone will take a look at you. And then so create differentiation. And I know I talk to students even at the freshman level and say, don't wait. Start early. Set a plan. Put a plan together. Start your career plan in your freshman year of college. What's wrong with that? Because you can't wake up one day, between your junior and senior year and say, hey, I think I should get an internship. It's too late. It's really competitive to get internships. So, and leverage your network for internships as well. It doesn't have to come through the college. My son got his internship because he knew the CFO of a company who happened to be his aunt. Again, connections, right? Networking. And also in the networking, I'm a firm believer that, I'm not a CSU alumni, but if a CSU alumni came to me, because I know that what a great institution and what a quality education that CSU provides, and I had 2 kids that have gone through it, I would look at that resume. So leverage the network, see if you can create a connection by just being a CSU friends or family. And I know that is a lot of work and a lot of research, but that's what you have to do. Finding a job is a full-time job, no doubt about it. I've had to do it in my career, and it's a full-time job. So start early.
Yes, I love that advice, especially how you shared to us about your kids and how they are doing great things. And a little plug for the Alumni Association. Definitely, if you're a young alumni, join when you graduate. Really, the connections you make even on LinkedIn are amazing. And so, on that note, Rich, do you have any special encouragement that you would give to alumni right as they're graduating, like related to networking, differentiation, that first step to getting their first career job?
Yeah, so I realize that it's a very challenging environment right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's probably a bit more difficult than normal years, right? One thing that I would say is that maybe you're not going to find your dream job right away, but you could get into an entry-level job and get some practical work experience that could lead to a new opportunity, right? as I said, my son started in package disposition, and that launched into another opportunity in, in more of his career. Is it his dream job? No, but it could create that foundation or that differentiation that leads to that dream job someday. Um, so I would say that, be more flexible. Um, Apply to as many jobs as you can. I would say that that could give you some. It may not be the job that you want, but it'll give you interviewing skills and practice that'll make you better for the next interview. Um, you know, um, and if you can't find a position, then look at things that might be. You may have to put your professional career on hold. Look at certifications. You know, technical credentials, certifications and things like project management or Six Sigma. Look at a bunch of other things that will show that you have at least the initiative during that stalled period that you're going out and doing something. Think about your master's degree. Um, when I went for my master's degree, I graduated, went to work, and did my MBA at night. It's hard. It's hard. And it took me 5 years at night to get that. So it's hard. So maybe it's time, and I know there's a lot of considerations in this, but think about, do you want to get an advanced degrees during this kind of stall period? And again, maybe it's an opportunity to get anything that you start working and then leverage. But again, my objective here is to talk about networking. Network as much as possible. That will find you your next opportunity, and then create that level of differentiation, whether it be if you're graduating, if you're an underclassman, or if you're a young alumni. Just continue to look at things that will differentiate you with enhanced certifications or learnings or experience or anything, and then get involved. Get involved in different associations that might be close to the profession that you want, and go to those events when they become live. They're probably Zoom events, but interact with people and create those connections. Because, like I said, aside from maybe two opportunities in my career, everything was generated through my network. And it wasn't just a professional network. Like I said, in a couple instances, it was friends or relatives or anything that you can do to leverage your network.
That's awesome. And we have a follow-up question in regards to getting an advanced degree. So the question is, when is it worth it to get a master's, and when is it not worth it?
I wouldn't say it's never not worth it. I would say, again, getting back to differentiation, you know, I, I have my master's degree, and I think that companies may look at that and said, the work ethic and the dedication, and it has been part of my success is that, I have an advanced degree versus others that may not have an advanced degree. And I'm not saying that person I'm smarter than that person at all. Sometimes when it comes back, when companies evaluate you, they just look at your resume, right? And also in some of the requirements of a position, as you get further along in your career, it actually becomes a requirement. I mentioned before, and I think you asked the question, when I stayed within accounting, one of the things that I faced is that I never pursued my CPA. And I think after a while, not having that designation negatively impacted me. Because when things like Sarbanes-Oxley was introduced and companies wanted to have certified higher level executives, it was a requirement. Did that mean I was the person with a CPA is a better accountant than I am? Maybe. But so look at it from a differentiation and meeting requirements of advanced positions. So that's how I would answer that. Whether it's not required, I don't know. I think having as much education as possible is always a positive thing, whether it be in your career or outside of your career. It allows you the ability to have cool conversations like this. Not necessarily.
And I can read the next question we have, and it's kind of related to how your career has built up so much. How do you find ways to give back in your field?
That's a great question, and thanks for asking that. Um, as mentioned before, I'm part of a Colorado State Parent and Family Board, and I'm very much interested in helping um, alumni and graduating students find and prepare for life after CSU, because I don't think we do enough thought in that, and it's hard. It's hard. I mean, students are there trying to get good grades, working hard, having some fun. I get it. And maybe they're not preparing for life after CSU. And one of the reasons why I wanted to be involved in this interview is, share my knowledge and also, talk to students and say, start preparing for that. Set together a career path and follow that career path. So I try to give back by being involved in the board. Um, I've I've written some newsletters. I'm going to write another newsletter for the board with a bunch of other board members. And the focus is really how do you find a job in this challenging pandemic environment, and some tips on that. Um, we do events. We tried to develop a CSU focused network and promote that. So I'm trying to give back to CSU um, by participating in this Friends and Family Board and offering my experiences in those areas and trying to get the word out to students to really think about and prepare for life after CSU. And I know it's challenging, but as you transition um, from your academic life into your professional life, you need a plan, just like anything else. And my message is, start thinking about that plan, and ask family and parents and other friends and peers to help you through that. So I like to give back by helping students prepare for life after CSU and move that transition from academic life to professional life. Um, I also involved in some charitable foundations and other things. I love sports. I love coaching. I think coaching people in a professional environment is the same as in a sports environment. I like to focus on youth sports as well. So I've done a lot of coaching, and that's been rewarding. And what I find is that some of the same skills that you do in the workplace, you do on the athletic field. So, but first and foremost, I really enjoy being part of the CSU Family and Friends, Family and Parent Board.
Thank you. We're so glad to have you in the CSU family. I think that's one of my favorite parts of being a student here is just the wide alumni and friends connections. Like, especially I'm also a RAM handler, so I get to really meet one-on-one people at all the events. And it's just, it really, I don't know, I love CSU. It warms my heart that we generally have so much community support. So we're really
Yeah,
happy to have
you
you here.
know, when I went to school, when I went to Seton Hall, it was 30 miles away from my home. So
Wow.
I was a commuter, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I have, I enjoyed my days at Seton Hall. Um, but I wanted my children to experience college life in a different way. Go off to school. Like I said, my oldest daughter went to Tulane, and New Orleans was a pretty nice place to have to go to college. Fort Collins, again, a beautiful place and a great environment, not only from an education perspective, but all the things that Colorado in general has to offer. Um, so I wanted my children to go away to college. That's not something that I did. Um, but I wanted them to enjoy college life in a different way, because I basically went back and forth to school and maybe caught a basketball game here and there. Um, as I said, my son played football for a couple of years. Enjoyed going to the football games. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to do that now. That whole college environment. My daughter also played club soccer for a number of years. Um, we're pretty much a sports athletic family, so we love those things. They played sports throughout their lives, and I think having that college experience, which again is put on a little bit on hold right now, but I think things will change and things will get better.
Yeah, definitely. And it's amazing that two of your kids graduated from this. And we have a question for you in the chat. So this one says, I have been graduated for 5 years. My undergrad was in health and exercise science with the intention to apply to PT school. During undergrad, I was heavily involved in volunteer work. Once I got to my final semester of college, I knew I wanted to continue working in service. I have spent the last 5 years investing all of my time working in higher education and social work. I have used all your tips to differentiate, be flexible, and work hard. It landed me coordinator and director positions, but now I want to switch back to the health field, basically starting from ground zero. It has been extremely difficult to find jobs. I have networked and applied for entry-level positions. What suggestions do you have in interviews when my professional experience has been in an unrelated field?
So first of all, congratulations for all your success. I think that's great. I think you did all the right things, and it led you to where you are today. It appears that you're looking to make a little bit of a career shift, and on top of that, you're in a very challenging environment in finding new opportunities. So that might be an influence there as well. Again, across your career, again, you probably had a lot of people that you're involved with, and just keep working your network. Um, I think when you hear network, you think of hundreds and hundreds of people. And I'm not really professing that to a certain degree. I think you'll find that there's probably 5 to 10 critical people in your network that you have to leverage extensively, and be visible and follow up, and keep pushing for them to find you not the next opportunity. But with that said, I would say the only person that's going to find your next opportunity is yourself, and it's a hard job. So you might be a little bit frustrated right now, but I would say just continue to do what you're doing. I think your shift is really following your passion, which is one thing that I recommended. You just have to stay persistent, and again, hopefully when things open up and recovery continues, then opportunities will grow. I would say one thing that maybe target companies that you'll see will be well positioned when recovery happens. Um, and I think the student is looking, or the alumni is looking to move into back to healthcare. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, now healthcare is one sector that is actually growing, and obviously um, one area that is probably resilient through all the challenges that we're having. Um, you may have to take a step back to take 2 steps forwards. So maybe your goals might be set a little bit too high, and you may have to get in, prove your worth, and then move forward. So those are just some things, but don't get discouraged. Be patient, stay focused, continue to work at it, and again follow that passion. But congratulations, and you should be very proud of what you accomplished so far. Sorry, I should have silenced my phone.
Yes, but also congrats. That's very admirable to be switching to healthcare right now. I know I definitely am a little intimidated by it as a fellow health and exercise science major, but it's definitely really cool. Definitely check out the Career Center too. Another question we had was about your day to day work Rich, in your field. So what's a day in your life like, and the responsibilities you have?
Oh, for today? Let's
Yeah.
see. So I'm afforded the luxury of working from home, and I even did that most of the time, even before all the restrictions came into play. So I get to interact with a lot of the leadership at the company that I'm working at, as far as it's budget time right now. So we're planning for 2021. The company I work for now is in business services, so it's actually we've been growing significantly because of the high demand, um, and uh, and so the last couple of weeks have been really focused on 2021 budget, and really making some decisions about what we're going to make investments are, because there are some limitations into next year. So we look at investments that will provide the company with the highest return. We also set a budget that's going to be consistent with the overall profitability objectives of the company for 2021. Um, I work with the leaders within that organization to put together a plan to execute against some of those strategic initiatives. So, strategy, like I said before, is predicting the future. This is what's going to happen in 2021. We have a lot of work at home employees that may be transitioning back, so we have to prepare for that. So there's a lot of constant meetings. We're also looking at financial results and how we can make those better on a consistent basis. So we're reviewing what's happening for September and Q3, and projecting out what's going to happen for Q4. And then again, looking at project portfolios and what have been going. We actually use a pretty simple traffic light approach. Where projects are in green, let them keep going. Yellow, how do we turn them to green? And red, what do we need to do to interject some changes to get those projects back on track? So it's a myriad of different responsibilities, and like I said, I enjoy every day.
That's awesome. And this is actually a great segue into a question that was sent in beforehand. And the question is, I am studying to be a career counselor, and I'm interested to learn about what advice I should give to students seeking a career similar to yours.
So, and again, thanks everyone for all these questions. That's really what I was hoping for, is that I can answer questions. Maybe with not always the correct answer, but with my thoughts about it. I think number one, that's a great career. And a lot of the things and advice that we've heard throughout this call is probably the things that I would say. Um, you know, um, Things like preparing for life after CSU. They want to be a career counselor, right?
Yes, they want to be a career counselor, and when they're talking to students, they want to know how they can get to a career path like yours.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of the elements that we've been talking about, starting early, preparing yourself, differentiation, networking, all the things that we touched about here. Um, you know, Provide them with access to tools like the Career Center. Utilize those tools. Prepare yourself for resumes, interviews, and resume is probably an important part. That's really your first entrance into a company, is how do you present yourself on a resume. And I know it's a challenge maybe for college graduates, but again, gets back to differentiation. Um, some work experience, some certifications, leadership activities that you're involved with at CSU or the college that you're going to, all those things. And again, follow your passion is always a theme that I would ask students, and then challenge them to come up with a plan, and then work with them to help develop that plan and augment that plan. Like I said, I didn't know I was going to be in strategy when I started out, but having the accounting, having the finance, having the treasury background, all were building blocks to that long-term goal. And again, start with your passion and then put a plan together and put some things. Now, I was taking a look at it. I worked for 3 companies, and that was 35 years of my career. First one was 5, next was 13, next was 17. And now I'm an executive consultant for the last couple of years. Um, I think that has changed a lot. Okay. People will be moving, from job to job a bit more frequently. I see that. And in the past, and again, I mentioned my father before. My father worked 48 years for the same company. Um, he started out in the mailroom and became general manager one day. That doesn't happen that often, right? So you may have to acknowledge the fact that people will have to move from position to position to advance their career. And but all the qualities and things that we talked about is going to allow them to do that over the course of their career. Focus on the soft skills. Communication is a big thing that we need to do. So again, hopefully I answered the question, but a lot of things that we talked about through this call is probably the advice that I would give college graduates or college students.
Yes, that was amazing advice. I felt like it was really important too that you mentioned how you switch careers, because I know as an undergrad and a future alumni that it's pretty intimidating to think about planning your whole career in your senior year of college. I know when I went to the career center, they told me that most people do switch careers after college and throughout their lifetime. And for me, that was a shock. Like, I was like, people change their career path. So it was really cool to see how your different jobs ultimately led up to your very high level leadership position.
Well, I think for the most part, I stayed within the business
Mm-hmm.
area, right? I might have jumped from different functions within business,
Right.
but I know people that have jumped careers from maybe finance and accounting to marketing, or
Mm-hmm.
or something that you don't always know that this is the career path that I want to pursue, and maybe your passion changes, or maybe the economic environment changes where you look at an industry that might be a bit more inviting to you, or rewarding to you. So yes, create a plan, but realize that you could be flexible and you can change. And to the earlier discussion, you may have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, and that's okay too. You know, that's all right. You just need to, hopefully, at the end of your career, and moving towards the twilight of my career, you look back and you say, "Hey, that was a pretty good run, and I had some great experiences," which I did. Um, and then introduce some of the things that may not be business related, but I had the opportunity to travel throughout the world and see different places and different countries and people, and I love the people aspect of it, because at the end of the day, whether you have a different language or different beliefs, or different um, environment in which you work, people are people. They want to have fun. They want to focus on their family. They want some level of financial security. And I think that has helped me understand um, people in a greater way, by just looking at them the same as everybody else. We all have the same objectives.
Definitely.
Well, I think that might be it, unless anyone has any last minute questions in the chat. I'll give y'all a second. Okay, I don't see anyone furiously typing. So I'll wrap up. Thank you so much, Rich. I personally learned so much from your chat, and I'm so glad we had the chance to meet. And we're always thinking about how to offer relevant career sources to students and alumni. So if you're interested in accessing the further career services, just reach out at alumni.colostate.edu. I think we plugged that website into the chat earlier. And special final thank you to Rich. I learned so much about differentiation and how to really excel myself in my future career, which is hopefully going to be starting very soon. And I hope everyone will consider joining us every other Monday for more career connections. Furthermore, another shout out to the Alumni Association. We noticed that many of you are members of the CSU Alumni Association. So thank you so much for your membership and showing up to all the events. I know we have a lot of fun stuff going on. And if you'd like to learn more about membership or connect, make networking opportunities like today, feel free to reach out again at alumni.colostate.edu. Thank you all. And
Yeah, so thanks very much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate reaching out to me, and if I've impacted somebody in a positive way, then I feel I accomplished something today. And if it may not be the right path, but be flexible. But I will say, I will give you advice like I give to my kids: follow your passion, and good things will happen because you'll enjoy every day of your life. And that's what I leave with you guys. So thanks very much for having me, and hopefully I can speak to you again in the future.
Thank you so much, Rich. I learned so much from you, and I'm definitely going to be using the advice that you gave us today.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you.